One thing I've been meaning to make for these videos is steak. My demonstration of it. My favorite cuts are the filet and the New York strip, of course. So I'll show you how I make the New York strip, which is what I have now. You could probably do this with any type of meat. Some of it is my own little, some of what I'm going to show you are my own little quirks and idiosyncrasies, just things I like, which are probably not what you really like supposed to do if you're going to make a professional quality. I don't know. I mean, for example, we all like ours medium to medium well. I know that most restaurants, most people prefer it more on the rare side. It's just not our thing. We've never been like that. So I cook mine a little bit differently to my preference, but you can cook it to your preference. So this is New York strip. And what I start by doing, which I don't think anyone at an actual steakhouse restaurant ever does, I cut off this fat. Now I know the fat is flavor, but it's fat, and I don't want it. I don't want to chew on it. So I cut off those big pieces of fat like this. I try to make it more of a lean cut of meat. And when I'm trimming here, I'm trying to trim as close so that I don't miss out on any meat. And if I do happen to cut away any meat, I have my friends here that they both know what I'm doing. They're waiting for their pieces. Can you say spoiled? I also like just to cut through some of these larger fatty pieces or connective tissue pieces, just because, like I said, I don't want that in there. Okay. There's one. These I usually try to, if I can, pick out as much of the meat as I can. But I know once I bite into this, I'm gonna be biting into all of this fat, and some of it is like connective tissue, and I don't want that either. Again, this is my way of doing it, which my family seems to like. One thing you can be guaranteed is when I'm making you meat, it's not gonna have a lot of visible fat, chewy fat in there, whether it's pulled pork or this. It's gonna be lean. I'm gonna use other things to flavor it. Just cutting off the visible fat or anything big. Number 2. This actually probably makes it more heart healthy because it doesn't have all of these pieces that are going to go down my throat and into my arteries. So I'll be right back. So many times if I want to cook these on the grill or the stovetop, I will butterfly them and then flip them over so they're more even but thinner and they cook quicker. Today I might try to cook them in the oven, so I'll leave them at this size, this width. I don't want to trash on fat. Actually, I was talking about like this ending up coating your arteries and creating plaque, which you don't want. And I know I use butter and things, but I do try to limit where I can, so I'm compensating. But the other thing I was gonna say is gram for gram, this has more calories than protein or carbohydrates. So if you're in a situation where you need it, this is actually a good source of nutrition. My dogs agree. Okay, so these are the pieces that I'm going to cook. Now what I do, it's my battle over time to make a good steak, like a Ruth's Chris steak, and I never could figure out how to do that at home. Now I think part of it is getting the right cut, so if you can get prime grade, that's the best. The restaurants probably have ways of aging their meat, which I don't do, but I asked a chef friend once how would I get my steak to taste more like a Ruth's Chris steak. And he gave me the idea, basically she told me about salting your meat. So that actually, to me, really does help create that type of flavor, intense flavor. What it is, you have your salt. It's probably like the same concept of a dry rub. You salt your meat and rub it in, and then just put it on a rack and put it in the fridge for, you can do it up to 12 hours. You can probably do it as long as you want to, even as little as 2 hours will help. And the concept of why this flavors your meat is more like osmotic pressure, I believe, going back to school, distant memories. But the idea is all of this salt pulls on the surface of your meat, pulls out the fluid from the meat, which then bathes in the salt and then goes back in and pulls the salt into your meat. And so the flavor of the salt is more even throughout rather than just on the surface. I think that's how it works. Again, if I'm wrong, tell me. I'd love to know. I like to learn. So I'm just salting the other side, and I'm using my Malden sea salt, which I love. I like it big and coarse. So this is all really well salted. I'm just going to rub it in. Hopefully that's good. And I have a tray. This is my baking trays are being used right now. So I'm just going to put these right on top like this. A little closer together to get these. I want to fit them all on one. A few little random pieces that I have. So I'm going to leave these on the rack, and they actually do dry out a bit because of the whole water mechanism, and because any extra water will often just sort of drip down into the bottom. I don't know if that's very important. Again, the science behind it could be a little different than what I'm telling you. But this is what I've tried, and this is what I like, and this is what I want to show. So what I'm going to do is just put this in the fridge until I want it. So at least 2 hours. I've done up to 12 hours. Both are good. When we're ready, we'll take it out, let the steak come up a little bit more to room temperature, and then we'll actually cook it. Then we'll get the taste test from the whole crew to see what they think. So we are getting ready to make our meat. This has been sitting. What you're hearing now, there's some of those little bits that I'm cooking for the dogs. And I season them with salt and pepper because that's what we did for our Mr. Cat Apache. Yes, it means they're spoiled. They're not gonna get much, but you know, a little bit to add to their food. Okay, so this has been salted already. We saw that. So what I'm gonna do, sprinkle pepper all over both sides. Big sides, not almost teeny little sides on the end. Flip this around. More pepper on this side. Pepper will give it a nice little kick, so I don't want to be shy, but I don't want to overpower it either. Okay. Now, I'll show you when we're ready to cook it. Okay. Put some olive oil
I like
in
having
the
a
pan.
girl dog.
She's sweet. She's a pretty girl. She gets jealous when you pay too much attention to Tommy.
Yeah, it's fun. You get to
Okay.
change the flow. Boy and girl cat too. Same.
Yeah. So we're putting some of this in here. Not overcrowding.
Complete exception.
Boop. Are you criticizing my little boopy doo?
No, Millie.
Millie? Oh.
Boop and Kilo are like the same.
Yeah.
But
They're
Millie-
very similar.
Millie's sophisticated.
This is pretty high. Cast iron skillet. and I'm going to let this cook until a nice brown crust develops on the underside. The concept here is the high heat cast iron is to create a nice crust on one side. Usually it sticks to the pan until the crust has formed and then it's ready to open or release. So let's see, ready? That's pretty nice. Turn it around and do the same on this side. Oh, that's pretty. Okay. Once I have the crust on this side, what I'm going to do is put it in the oven to finish, and that is currently preheating to 400 degrees. Thing that I have seen done, and I haven't done this before myself, so we'll try it for the first time. See what the family thinks. Is to season this even further beyond the salt and pepper. There's a little butter. Oops. I have some rosemary, some garlic, and a little bit of thyme. So I'm going to let that melt. Ooh, I can smell the garlic seasoning that oil. And then we're just gonna baste. I might throw a little bit more of the olive oil on there to give it something to baste with, because it's a big pan. I think what people do is usually tip it over like this. Not quite yet. Remember when I talk about not wanting all that fat in my arteries, and I cut off all the fat? This is what I'm using to plant that flavor. For me, it's a matter of deciding where I'd rather get my flavor from. Compensating and mixing and matching. Whoa, that's hot. Okay, we'll give it a minute and come back. I'm developing a nice little sear on this side. I might put it on the side just to sear up the sides a bit. We'll sear it, flip it, and be back. So my sides are all nicely, beautifully browned and crispy. I'm going to put it in the oven to finish, and I'll show you in a sec how I know when it's finished. The one thing that I learned about a quick and easy, sort of quick and dirty way of checking for doneness is really about how firm or soft your meat is to the touch. So, for example, if you take your fist in your hand as an example, if it's well done, see this little muscle, this little tissue muscle right between the thumb and the first finger? If it's well done, grip your hand really tightly and feel that, how firm that is. There's no give. If it's rare, don't clasp, hold your hand soft and feel it. And it's soft and there's a lot more give. So I like mine pretty medium to medium well, so I'm going to grasp it a little more firmly, and there's some give but not as much, some firmness. It's a little more firm than soft. That's how I like it, so that's what I'm going to do when I check this. Otherwise, you could go by minutes, or you could stick a thermometer in there and check it for doneness based on your level, but I like it like that. Taste test.
Shut
William.
up.
Bring it downstairs.
The butter's
He's in
really
his room.
good. I got really strong butter in there, which is amazing.
No,
I mean,
yeah.
the meat is really good. It's perfectly cooked. Amazing.
Okay. Taste test. No noises, just commentary. I see you cheese. My cheese. What do you think? Good. Taste test. I can taste the rosemary and the garlic. Very good.